All right.
So Stefan, I'm trying to go by Mrs. Friend this year. And I feel like it's gonna take a big transition.
Well, I think since you're in the younger ages,
Yeah.
it'll be easier.
Yeah, I think the kids will get it, but all like my colleagues are like, hey.
Well, it honestly doesn't take a while. It doesn't take too long. So like we had a couple that have like their last names changed.
Yeah.
You know, after a couple of days, like the kids are like, who? And they're like,
Yeah.
oh, so no, it's this person.
Yeah. I'm like, why did I do this to myself? I should have just stayed. That's right.
Awesome songs.
No problem. Thanks, Jennifer. One time Kelly Newton and I did it with one person.
We did it with, I don't remember where we were. No, maybe not Pencil. I don't remember.
Yeah, we've done it with just a couple people.
When we started, and then started trickling in after that.
Yeah, you probably, when you did this one last year, you probably had like 1,000 people or something. I don't remember, but
yeah, the NEA in Pennsylvania always brings a lot of people. I think the last time we did it for the NEA, there had to be chat monitors. There was so many people.
Right.
All right.
We're welcome. We're gonna wait a minute or two before we start, but tonight you're going to hear our fabulous presenters talk about tech tools to facilitate student collaboration. We are recording, just for your information. Yeah, I highly recommend downloading their deck, as you will have access to everything, lots of great tools and examples. All right, it's 7:02, so I'm going to pass it off to Kelsey Lafferty and Stefan Hogan, our wonderful presenters from Ann Arbor Public Schools. You can go to the next one. And before they start, I will just begin by acknowledging that we meet on the traditional lands served by the Nacotch Tank people. That's who's here in the Washington, D.C. area. We honor America's first people and all elders past, present, and emerging. And just so you know, this is one in a long series of webinars on professional practice. You can find them on our website. We'll share that link later on. They're all recorded and accessible to you after the fact, along with the decks. So, and they're also based on what you say you would like in the exit survey. So we encourage you to complete that survey on your way out this evening.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Stefan Hogan, and I'm so pumped that you are here, Kelsey. Like,
I am too.
it's been a minute since we've done this
I
together.
know.
So it's so cool to have you. So I know we have a few people here. Could you do us a favor and throw your name in the chat and what level you teach and something you are looking forward to this fall? I know you may be in school already, but what is something that you look forward to participating in or jumping into or trying out? What's something that you look forward to as we are jumping into this fall? So go ahead and put your name, what level you teach, and something you're looking forward to this fall as Kelsey and I introduce ourselves.
Mhm. I have to think about what I'm looking forward to this fall. I think I'm looking forward to, I love a good like apple orchard, like a little cider and donuts.
Yeah, my wife loves the apple orchard. I am not a huge fan of being
No?
in what seems like the wilderness, but it is what it is. I think I'm looking forward to some semblance of, normalcy. That's what I'm.
Yeah, I can get behind that too.
So as I said, I'm Stefan Hogan. I have the awesome privilege of hanging out with my friend Kelsey Friend. See?
Thank you.
Boom, boom.
I need to change that up there, I realized.
I am starting my 6th year here in Ann Arbor, Michigan. That's where we are. For the Ann Arbor Public Schools, I have taught all of the math courses available in our current school, as well as I taught high school, a little bit of high school before, and did Algebra 1, Algebra 2, Geometry, Pre-Calc, blah, blah, blah. And so with all of that, I love to incorporate ed tech into my practice. It is something that I absolutely love. So a little fun fact about me, like I love spending my time reading. And like if you could see behind me, like if I took the virtual background away, you would see that there are books galore all around me. I love spending my time reading out on the patio. That probably is, as soon as this is over, that's probably where I'm about to go and get my last little bit of reading in before back to the grind. So,
and I swear you have to have at least 1,000 books behind you.
So many. Well, I don't know behind me, but we have books like behind me, in front of me, upstairs, all the way upstairs.
I love that. I love it.
Piles of books everywhere.
That's great. Hi, everyone. My name is Kelsey Lafferty Friend. I actually just got married this summer, and I need to change my slides. It's hard to, thank you, Christy. It's hard to get used to the name change. I am starting my 7th year in Ann Arbor Public Schools along with Stefan, and I taught 5 years in 5th grade. Like Christy said, she was working in 5th and 6th, and I moved to 2nd grade last fall with COVID, teaching on Zoom, new grade. And I love incorporating tech into my lessons, something I like to do for fun. I just love being outside. I feel like in Michigan, it's too gray here and we don't get enough sunshine. So I feel like anytime I can get outside, I love it. So yeah, and then also, I'm sorry if you heard my dog, he was just dreaming back here behind me. Can't also see on the virtual background, but he is a lovely rescue pup. Here's our info. You can follow us on Twitter, email us after presentation, follow Stefan on Insta. We usually get at least an email, or I love that. We usually get a few emails from these presentations saying, hey, what was that tool you said, Stefan or Kelsey, can you show me that again? Feel free to connect with us in any way. We love when people reach out.
Yeah, so please do. Please do. All right, so today we are so pumped about this. We've done this webinar quite a few times, and it's one that we absolutely love, where we get to share some of the things that we do currently in our practice, whether it is from a distance or face-to-face. So we're so pumped about that. So we're going to do a quick check-in, just see how we're doing. And then Kelsey's going to introduce us to some best practices. And then we're going to talk, the 2 big things that we're going to talk about are incorporating tools that are for conversation and collaboration, and then how we can incorporate tech tools in our practice and assessment in our math classes. And then I'm going to try, okay, so like we're, so in sessions past, we've had to speed through this example lesson. I'm going to try to get to that and give us an opportunity to have questions and answer at the end.
I might have to cut Stefan off when he talks about Desmos, because he can talk about that for a solid hour alone.
So I'll make sure that I got it together, succinct.
All right, so feel free to put in the chat, how comfortable are you teaching math with tech tools? I know at the beginning of COVID, we had a lot of ones, and now that they taught virtually or learned new tools, they were more 2, 3, 4. So feel free to put what you're feeling in the chat. Or you can put an emoji or whatever you are feeling. Oh yes, fours, hard, but had a hard time in the assessments, absolutely. So hopefully this will help you if you were not a 4 or 5, and even 4s and 5s can learn a little bit more. So this just talks about the Triple E framework. This is a framework designed by a professor and researcher at the University of Michigan named Liz Kolb. And she said that everything we do with technology should hit one of these 3 E's. It should extend student learning, enhance, or engage their learning. And if not, it's better to do on paper and pencil. Obviously, the paper and pencil option was not always available during, if your school shut down like we did. But now that a lot of us are back in person, we really think about what kind of tech you're using, and does it extend their learning, engage, enhance, all 3? If not, better to do with paper and pencil. Everything we show you tonight hits on at least one of these 3 E's, if not all of them. And if you follow along with our slides, you can learn a little bit more about Triple E. So here are some best practices about math. So you always want to teach a mini lesson where that's that grade level content. Especially I know Christy was saying that she teaches special ed. So we know a lot of times our students with disabilities, that is the time they're accessing grade level content. Then we offer differentiated work. We want to elicit student thinking. Stefan talks a lot about apps and programs that you can engage and elicit student thinking, even if it's not in person. Then we want to, of course, allow for collaboration, student discussion, and then give them access to practice individually. And sometimes that's homework, sometimes it's not. I know a lot of people don't love homework, but there's other options to practice by themselves.
All right. So we are about to jump in and talk about tools to get our students, talking, conversing, collaborating, working together. And so I am pumped about this. Like, as math teachers, we really want students to engage with each other, struggle through it together and come to those solutions together. So as we work through this and as we talk through this, you are able to have access to these slides. The slide deck is for you. You're welcome to have at it. The link to access them is in the chat. As we go through, you'll see a bunch of things that are in red. Those are live links for you to be able to click on. You can play around with it. You can look at a little deeper at the resources that we're going to introduce and talk about. And so remember, as we are talking about these things, know that these are things that Kelsey, Miss Friend, and I
Thank you, Stefan.
practice to like currently. And so it was funny, a few weeks ago we did one of these and I had rushed home from summer school and I was like, I literally just did this just like last hour.
Yeah.
And got this done. So know that these are things that we're working on. And so if you have things that you would like to share, go ahead and throw them in the chat. Like, we would love to, to get your ideas and expertise as well. So, all right, good. Let's go so that we can get started because, I want to make sure that we get through this. All right. So one of my absolute favorite tools to use to get students talking and conversing, get them to get their ideas out there, and then and so that we can visualize them, is Padlet. So Padlet is one of those tools where it's kind of just like where as the teacher, as the instructor, you can throw out a prompt. So you can throw out whether it's a math prompt, you may teach another subject, social studies, English, whatever your content and discipline is, you can throw out your prompt, or it could just be something weird and funny. Like later on, you'll see an example.
I love your example.
I just throw out some funny things like for summer school, like there was a humongous debate about whether you should be team brownie or team cookie. Like I had
Oh,
I had to mediate some arguments, right? And
what were you, Stefan?
I'm team brownie all the way. Don't play. Like that is where I'm at. Like there is
I think I am too.
an answer. Okay.
Yeah.
NEA, America across the lands. There is no other correct answer than Team Brownie. So you can throw out the prompt there, and then students are able to respond in a variety of ways. And that's one of the things I love about Padlet and utilizing this tool, is that students are able to respond in a way that is personal to them. All right, in a way that is comfortable for them. So my students like to use GIFs. They like to use emojis. They like to use memes. Oh my goodness, my students me all the time with memes. And this is the way that they are able to share their thinking and share where they are, and answer your prompts. So they can do videos, pictures, words, all types of things. One of the things I love about Padlet is it's not just responding to my prompt, but students are able to respond to each other. So they're able to add comments to what someone else has said, or they're able to draw arrows to what someone else has said, or they're able to rate or comment or thumbs up, thumbs down, things like that. And so if you notice here on the right-hand side, these are the options of the ways that you can set up your Padlet, all right? So you can set it up just like as a regular wall where things are like kind of pictures and students responding all over the place. You can a canvas where they're able to move stuff around. They can do like a vertical stream. It's just different ways that you can set up the Padlet so that students are able to visualize it in a way that is authentic to the prompt. And as the instructor, you're able to choose how students respond and how they interact with it. So it can have their name on it. You can toggle that on or off, how they are able to view posts. So whether the first are at the top or the bottom. What? Neglecting me right now. See, this is why I don't have the chat open, right? Okay, I feel so disrespected right now. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Wow.
You're talking all about Padlet and how awesome it is, and I'm convincing people to switch to Team Cookie.
So then you can also toggle on whether students can comment or not and things like that. One of the things that you will see throughout all of the things that we're going to introduce today is that everything has a free component. Everything is absolutely free. We're not asking you to spend any money. I know you've got hard-earned money. You've out here doing your best. You know, we're trying to make it work for our students. And so we're going to try and make it work for you as well. This is absolutely free. All right. So there is a paid version, but as I say every time we do this, like with the free version, you get like 7 Padlets you can do, and then you can just, you know, archive the old ones and bring up new ones. And I've been rolling with the free version for years. I've been rolling with this free version and I've been making it work. All right. So I promise you, you can make it work with the free version and you do not have to pay any money. Absolutely wonderful. Team Brownie forever. Let's go.
Oh, this is a good one too. Here's just an example of when Stefan said, what was your biggest win from last school year? And then people said building relationships. And if you watch, Schitt's Creek. I was blanking on the name. Schitt's Creek. That show is so funny. If you don't watch it, watch it.
All right, so getting into our next resource here, Google Slides. So oftentimes we do this and everybody's like, okay, we get to Google Slides and they just roll their eyes and like, we already know. Like I know how to Google Slide. I Google Slide all the time. Google Slides is fine. But Google Slides is, you know, we've made this presentation in Google Slides. Yep. You know, like it can just be a presentation tool. I'd make Google Slides every day. Like I get it, but it can be so much more. Okay, it can be so much more. Like there are so many things you can do. You can level up Google Slides all the way. And so one of the things I love to use Google Slides for is, again, getting students to collaborate on one thing, on one creation, on one project, on one idea from multiple perspectives. And so they're able to import pictures, they're able to explain their thinking, they're able to do so many different things. What you'll see is on the right-hand side, these are the top 2 pictures are 2 open middle problems. So if you teach math and you, I would highly suggest you look into incorporating open middle problems, because students at every ability level can access this, right? Mm-hmm. They can access, every student can access this by, you know, attempting to plug things in and work to their best of their ability. ability, but you also can level it up, and students that are at, you know, at a level where they're wanting to extend their thinking, there's like endless amount of opportunity for them to do that. So I would highly suggest you look into open middle problems. These are 2 open middle problems. The top one is a 6th grade one that I used in the past, and what they had to do was create 2 ratios that were equivalent using the digits 0 to 6 only once. They couldn't do any duplicates. They couldn't use any higher numbers. It was 0 to 6. And so what happened was every group had to do this. All they had was the words at the top, and they had that template that had the box at the top, the 2 boxes on the bottom, and the equal sign. So that's all they had. My students were not very happy with me. They're like, Mr. Hogan, this is so boring. Why can't it be so boring, Mr. Hogan? This is so boring. And so as a group, they were able to talk through, they were able to do the math, they were able to do the task. They were able to do that, but in a way that was connecting to them, that was a way that was interesting to them, a way that was, and so I absolutely love this, even though they were trying to burn me there. They were coming at me with, this is so boring, right? So, but they were able to actually do, and when I'm listening to them talk about this, and I'm listening to them talk about me, you know, and do me dirty like they were doing, but I'm listening to them talk about how they're doing the math, why this works, why this makes sense, and I'm loving the collaboration. I'm loving the connections that they're making, the mathematical thinking that I'm hearing happen as they're working together on different devices on this same exact task. And it is absolutely fantastic to see them working through, you know, and then, you know, collaborating on how can we make this less boring, Mr. Hoodoo, right? You know, seeing them level it up and do what they do to make it beautiful. So then the bottom one is one that I gave to my my algebra course. And if you notice, I made it pretty, so I didn't want to get burned again, or, you know, and so I made it nice and pretty and colorful and whatever. And so none of my students, my algebra students, came at me. But this is one where, again, my students had to work together and they had to come up with two expressions that would get the answer closest to 0. On this one, what I wanted them to do is not just give me an answer, but I really wanted to see, like, what was their thinking. And this is one that they did at a distance. The previous one at the top is one that they did when they were in person, so I could actually hear them. The one at the bottom, they had to do it at distance. And so I wasn't able to sit and like hear every single person because they're in breakout rooms. I can't be in all the breakout rooms at once. And so what I had them do was in the speaker notes, what they had to do was they had to explain the conversation, explain their thinking, and show me why did they come up with these numbers, because there was no there was none of the students that had the same numbers in each one of these boxes. So I wanted to know, like, what was their group's thinking as they were coming up with these numbers. And it was brilliant, the things that they were talking about and the things that they were able to show. And so this was absolutely fantastic, absolutely wonderful. There's a video in there that you'll be able to watch in your own time. This is something that you can see how I created this, how I utilized it with my students in my classroom. So if you want to watch that, go ahead. Okay, so also what I'll use Google Slides with, see, I'm telling you, like, so many things, and I'm dropping all of my I get so excited when I do these things. So this I bring the coffee. So one of the other ways I use Google Slides is I want, like, there'll be moments where I'll introduce a topic, or we've just, you know, given them a taste of what's happening, a taste of what's going on. And I want them to have a little bit of opportunity to practice that. So what I'll do is I'll embed practices inside of slides. So what I'll say is, okay, go ahead and log into, we use Schoology. So go ahead and log into Schoology. I want you to give this a try. And I don't want them to go and you know, try a bunch of different I don't want them to go real deep into it because we've just glanced at it. So what I want them to do is just get a good idea of what's happening, whether it's vocabulary, the beginning of a topic, or beginning of how to use a formula, whatever. So what I'll do is embed practice inside Google Slides. And what happens is it will automatically check whether students are right or wrong. It's self-correcting, self-checking practice that students get instant feedback. And for me, as the instructor, I don't have to, you know, look at all 30 of my students, or across, you know, 5 classes or 150 students. I don't have to look at every student and be like, okay, well, you did this wrong, you did this right? But it gives them instantaneous feedback and lets them know, oh, you're on the right track, or, oh, you need to think about this again, that wasn't right. And so there are 2 examples in there. And so can you go ahead and click the middle school example, the top one. And so this middle school example is, I want to say it is vocabulary. So if you notice, it's just a Google Slides, okay? Like, I know, like, you're like, Stefan, what is going on? Like, I know it's just a Google Slide.
Mhm.
What would happen is, if you notice, like, there's nothing fancy, there's nothing, there's no like back like coding behind this. You don't have to have, a computer science degree, like none of that stuff. It's just a Google Slides. But when I give it to students, it doesn't look this way. So when I give it to students, it will automatically, when they click that button, it'll look just like this. And so, Kelsey, can you actually go back to our presentation so that we can see what a student would look like? So Kelsey's going to go back to our presentation, and students get the link that is down at the bottom. So it says student link. So they're going to get this link. And when they get this link, if you notice, it automatically puts them into the presentation. So they don't get to see the nuts and bolts of
They don't get to see all this side stuff.
They don't get to see how it was made. They don't get to see any of that stuff. All they get to see is the presentation. And if you try and click other places, it's gonna it'll take them through. This is just the vocabulary. But then, so this is just vocabulary. So now we've introduced a couple of vocabulary words. I want them to get a little bit of practice. So now this is where they get an opportunity to practice what's the difference between an expression and an equation. These are things we just talked about. So there are three options. They can't go anywhere else. So Kelsey, can you try and click on something on their left? If you notice that they can't move forward, there's not a next button, they can't go anywhere. They have to choose one of these options. So if they choose one that's wrong, all right, so choose option, she chose option 3. That is not correct. That is not the difference between an expression and an equation. It tells them, no, that's not right. Try again. They have to click on the X. It takes them straight back to this same thing. And so now they're like, okay, so it's not that one. So, it's the one in the middle. The difference between an expression and an equation is there's an equal sign in an equation. Expressions are just, they have no equal sign. So, cool, awesome. So now they've got that right. They're able to move on to the next question. And so this gives them just a quick glimpse into, okay, this is the content, this is how, these are some things I need to brush up on. I can also make this a little more advanced and make it more of like an assessment. So this is what I would use as a formative assessment, but for students, but I could also use it for myself as well. Okay, so this is absolutely wonderful. This is another way that I level up my Google Slides in my classroom. Just as a quick, tech tool just for all of you. You may know this because you're all brilliant, fantastic, and wonderful. One of the ways that you can force students to be into the presentation mode and they can't get out is in that URL up at the top. There's going to be a bunch of gobbledygook, but then one of the words is going to say edit. If you change that word from edit to present. So
right up here, it says present.
Can you go to the one to the right, please? So this is, if you notice, there's a bunch of gobbledygook, but in there's that word edit. If you change that word from edit to present, it will force, and then give students that URL, it will force them into presentation mode. So if you give them this URL, it will force them in there so they can't get out.
And it is really handy. I actually, instead of doing a welcome letter, I did a welcome slideshow for my incoming families. And I did the same thing. So they didn't have to see all kind of my junk on the side. So I thought that was really handy. All right, let's.
Boom, boom, boom.
All right, Jamboard. So Jamboard is another free program because Stefan and I always say we're balling on a budget. We love free stuff. If you are a Google user like we are a Google school. It is a free extension you add right on. And my favorite thing being a millennial teacher is I don't like all the extra things I have to save. And I like that it always saves to my Google Drive. So Jamboard is so handy. When I started using Jamboard, I did something really basic. Like I took a screenshot of the math problem and I just wrote right on it. Then you can kind of upgrade your Jamboard. Oh, you had writing the numbers on there. Oh, yeah.
They have a new update where they can actually type in now, so they don't have to.
Yes. Yep. They don't just have to handwrite. The only issue with Jamboard is if you have a very large class, like we've done it for PD before, you can't have a ton of people on it at once. So usually, hopefully for your class sizes, it can all work at the same time. And then I got a little more engaging with my Jamboard. So then this was when we did a math circus. And so students had to use the pen and say which greater than or less than. This was just a fun little minion claw. And then we would do this for morning meeting and closing circle. it would just be an image and they had to guess what it was. And the answer was a pig locked in a button factory at night. So I did not make these. If you are on Twitter, her name is @GiftedTalk, and she shares all these Jamboards for free. So that's just another way to kind of up your Jamboard game, like Stefan upped his Google Slides game.
Yeah, so Kelsey, Christy asked, how do you import images?
Ooh, and let me slap this link right in there. So when you are making a Jamboard, there is a plus sign that you are able to actually put it in, similar to if you were inserting right into a Google slide. You can just insert. I think they've really made some updates that have really made it a lot easier for students and teachers.
Yeah, it has definitely become a lot more user-friendly.
Yeah.
It has been absolutely like groundbreaking for me, because I didn't know, going into distance learning, I had never used Jamboard at all. And then like that was one of our main tools that we
yeah.
used.
And then there's that link, you can click on it, and let me just show you quick. Her name, Gifted Talk, she does them all for free, where you can do something like probability, you can do basic things like money for my students, sums. She also has ELA on there too, so if you teach more than one subject, writing, puzzles, biomes, yeah, she is awesome, and I love that she just shares all of this for free. So check out those fun Jamboards. All right, so quickly going over small group instruction. This is when this is an example from a couple of years ago. When I had a really nice small class, I would do guided rotations in 3 groups. And so I had different Michigan sports teams as my group names. And so they either had to meet with me, they were working on journal pages, or playing the math game. So when I was in school, I was good at math and I was quick at math, which means I always ended up playing the game. And if you teach in a guided model, all students have time to play the game, have that math discourse, being able to engage in math conversation. And so guided math, make sure that you see all kids every day. When I started teaching in a guided math model, I actually truly knew how all my students were doing in math. And so you can see I would do fluid groupings where I would change their name out. And then sometimes I would pair them up, so I have them lined up next to a partner. And so they didn't have to argue at, I don't want to play with them during a game, so it was already partnered up. And if you have a larger class, you can make 4 or more groups. And so once again, I just did the sports teams, although our sports teams aren't very good here in Michigan. Ways to group kids, I've done entrance and exit tickets, sticky note problems like on the Share Your Thinking poster, unit assessments, plickers. These boys are holding up plickers, where it's an app where you can actually just use your phone and scan it around the room, and it'll tell you all their answers really quick. Of course, behavior is factored into everything we do as teachers, and there's more options. So if you've never tried out guided math, here's a few good books that I recommend. I really love this book, Mathematical Mindsets, especially if you are one that doesn't like math. I really think it gives you a nice perspective on teaching math. All right, some tools.
All right, so now, and we know that it's important for students to collaborate. We know that it's important for them to have conversations, to share their thinking, to talk about what they're doing. We also know that it's important for students to have the opportunity to practice, and for us to get data and feedback on how they're doing and understanding. And so I remember earlier, someone said that they feel comfortable except for making assessments. And so we're going to talk about specific tools that we can use for practice, as well as ways that we can assess formatively and summatively our students' understanding. All right, so the first tool is, I'm not going to spend an hour, I promise.
He could though, I swear.
I could, because this is like my go-to move. But Desmos, I absolutely love using Desmos. I remember when I first started teaching, I tell my students back before I had gray hair in my beard and that stuff. But back when I first started, Desmos was really just a graphing calculator tool that was virtual, digital, that really was groundbreaking for students that didn't have access to the expensive calculator like this one, right?
And those TIs, yep, they get you.
Like me, that didn't have the money to access this tool, this was something that students like me could utilize.
Mhm.
Then, so it was really helpful when I taught high school. That was something that we went to. And then what they started doing is offering activities that you could use as teachers to help students to understand. It really was focused on like algebraic skills. And so I remember my first year teaching here in Ann Arbor, like we had a PD on one of the activities, which was called Function Carnival, and we were all mesmerized by things that were happening. We were like, oh my goodness, this is awesome, this is fantastic. But it really was only utilized and appropriate for algebra students, algebra 1, algebra 2, you know, some geometry students and things like that. And so like it really didn't have an application for what we were doing in middle school when that's where I was at. But over the years, what they've done is really expanded their the usefulness of this tool for not just high school teachers, but also for middle school and for elementary and early childhood students and teachers. And so it's absolutely fantastic. So Desmos, it will give you a menu of activities that you can utilize and assign to your students for practicing a variety of content and topics. So whatever it is that you are thinking of doing, there are probably activities for you to utilize there. All right. So for instance, if you're teaching equivalent expressions. If you're teaching equivalent expressions, what you could do is you could search up an activity for equivalent expressions, and if you notice, there's one there. And this one is absolutely fantastic. I've utilized this. If we were on mine, you would see that there are a lot of activity sessions because I've utilized this exact activity multiple times with my students in 6th grade and my algebra students, and so and my high school students. So it is absolutely fantastic. And one of the things I would say is what you would do is, can you go ahead and click on where it says screens? So click on one of it doesn't matter which screen you click on, down at the bottom.
Oh.
And so this is what it looks like for your students. So it poses some sort of problem. So Gabrielle and Kayla, they each received the same set of tiles. They arranged them differently and they wrote them in. So what they're doing is the students are going to look and say, oh, okay. So on Gabrielle, put all the X's together. So we've got 3 X's and then we've got 6 individual pieces. But Kayla has done 3 groups of X plus 2. Right. And so helping them see that 3x plus 6 is going to be the same as 3 times x plus 2. And helping them see that these are equivalent. So they're going to share their thinking. They're going to practice with this concept. You've talked about, equivalent expression. They're going to practice with this, and it's going to get progressively more challenging. It's going to get progressively more detailed. Students are going to it's going to extend their thinking further along. They're going to have to then do a little bit more and more. And it really is awesome the way that you can utilize this in your practice. One of my absolute favorite tools to use is Polygraph. And so if you go ahead and search up a polygraph, what it does is, it doesn't matter which one. So polygraph clocks. So this is one that you could use in elementary grades. If you notice, this is one that is for students telling time, which, I'm not a elementary teacher, I'm not the expert, but the expert is right below me on the screen.
Yes, I swear that they need to learn time in elementary.
And so what they're going to do in the polygraph is, it's kind of like, if you can remember back to your childhood playing Guess Who, right?
Oh, yeah.
Playing that Guess Who game. And so this is one of those Guess Who games, but you're playing it with mathematical concepts, and in this case, clock concepts, right? And so it really does get students, one of the ones that I love to use is a polygraph about lines. And so getting them to think, right at the beginning, they're going to talk about, oh, the line is straight. Well, that's not very helpful. They're going to talk about, oh, the line goes up, right? It goes through the right side, right? They're going to talk about that. But as we're working through this concept and working with this, they'll then be able to talk about, oh, well, it has a slope of this. It has a y-intercept of this. It goes through the origin. It intersects the x axis at this point. Like, they're able to, you begin to see the sophistication in their thinking and conversation, and they're beginning to practice with these ideas. And it absolutely is fantastic getting students to think about and practice with how to utilize this. So as a teacher, you can assign these to students. They can work on it independently. You can do it class-wide. I've done both of them. They're absolutely wonderful. It will pose them problems. But one of the things I absolutely love about this is, yes, like, students get to work on it. There's a variety of things. What I would tell you is, whatever your topic is, Google topic, Desmos, activity, and you will find things that have been made by Desmos, things that have been made by teachers, and it is absolutely fantastic. But I love all of that. The thing that I love about it is I'm able to not just look at what students are doing correct, but one of my favorite things is looking at authentic errors that are made and being able to discuss those, being able to discuss things that were not correct, errors and misconceptions in student thinking, and be able to have those real-time conversations. One of the things that when I would do this just with paper and pencil, one of the struggles I had is making sure that I didn't embarrass a student. Like, I don't want to, pull out the paper and be like, oh, everybody, let's look at Kelsey's error. Number 4 wrong. Let's talk about it, right? We don't want to do that to students. We, especially when they're out there doing their best, when they're, taking the risk of trying, and we don't want to, disrupt that. And so Desmos has these features that are here in the blue. So if you look in the blue, they've got these features that you can utilize as a teacher. The first button there that is on the left, it says anonymize. What you can do is you'll press that button. If you notice, I had 72 students in this class. You press that button and it changes it from Kelsey Lafferty Friend to, Marie Curie. So students can see all the lists, but it's just some famous mathematicians, Isaac Newton, whatever, right? Katherine Johnson. And so what they're doing is they have no idea what student is actually Marie Curie, right? Oftentimes, Kelsey doesn't even know that she's Marie Curie.
Yeah, right.
No. Now I'm able to do that, and then I'm able to press that pause, which then it causes all the students' screens to go black. And then what you will hear is a very disgruntled, oh, what's going on? This just got good. I just, right? You know that the magic is happening when they get so disgruntled about you pausing their math work, right? And so then what I'm able to do is project Kelsey's error and say, hey, look at Marie Curie's work. Right? Somebody tell me what was their thinking this? And I'm able to have an authentic conversation about an error that most students probably had. I'm able to use actual student work. I'm not having to come up and say, oh, look at this, fake work. Look at this, that Sally did over here, right? I'm able to use actual student work, actual student thinking. We're able to have these rich, powerful conversations, which then will contribute to, through their practice, deeper learning and understanding of the topic. And so I'm able to do that without stigmatizing Kelsey, damaging her confidence, but also, enriching this conversation so that we can all grow, we can all get better, and all move forward. And so Desmos is a powerful tool. Again, as Kelsey said, I could talk about this forever.
He should be sponsored by them. They should be paying him, I swear.
So if any of you have a hookup, let me know, because I could go on the road with this.
I know.
Kelsey knows, I absolutely love Desmos. This is something
I would be his reference, that he'd be a great Desmos.
Yes, thank you. And so if you have not tried Desmos and you teach math, I would highly suggest it. Ask me questions, connect with us on Twitter.
Yes, please.
Email, let me know, and I'd be happy to talk you through any of the things that we have talked about, and especially Desmos. Okay, got to move on. See, I tried to be succinct there. So, so yes, thank you, Jennifer. Thank you. Look at this. See, Jennifer, you've had my back. Thank you. Even though you're on team.
There we go.
I'm forgiving you. I'm definitely going to forgive you for that. All right. So one of the things that my students love, and this is back. So our district is now 1-to-1. So that's
yes.
That's brand new. We were not always 1-to-1. It's.
We're so excited about it too.
A new development. So before, when we were, utilizing carts, my students, whenever they would see me rolling down the hallway with the iPad cart, they'd be like, "Oh, are we doing Quizlet today?" Oh, right. They would always get pumped because Quizlet is one of those things where they're able to practice the mathematics in a fun environment. Mm-hmm. So one of the things I love about Quizlet is we're all busy. We've all got things to do. We've all got stuff that's happening. Especially in this environment that we're going back into, just trying to make it and make sure our kids are safe and we're safe and we've got so many things that we are focused on. One of the things I want to make sure that we are doing is utilizing our time effectively. And so Quizlet has thousands upon thousands upon thousands of pre-made tools, and really what they are flashcards, like old school flashcards. One side you got definitions or whatever, the other side you've got the word. They've got thousands and thousands of pre-made flashcards. And so for math, there'll be a problem on one side and then the answer on the other. They've got thousands of them. Whatever the content you're talking about, whatever you're exploring that day, whatever you're working with your students, they've got it for you. So you don't have to create anything. You don't have to go and, find problems and put it into nothing. Like, it is already there. And so what you can do is there are a variety of ways that you can have your students practice utilizing this tool. So if you look on the right hand side, that vertical picture there, you can use it as just traditional flashcards. So sometimes students just want to work on, how do I solve for X? Like, they want to, how do I do this one step equation, whatever. So they're working on flashcards. Oh, they're able to click on it, flip it over, and be like, oh, I got it right, or I got it wrong. It's just that instant feedback. They can also do learn, write, spell, test. I don't usually utilize those very much because sometimes with math, it gets a little funky and wonky. But the one that I use the most, and I absolutely love, and that students get all bouncy about, is Quizlet Live. They get so bouncy. Excited. They're like, oh, can we do it today? Can we do it? Can we do it? Right. And so Quizlet Live is a way that they're able to practice these concepts as a group. And I absolutely love it. So there are two options when you do Quizlet Live. You can do it as teams or individuals. You can do it as teams and individuals. As teams, what happens is they get grouped up in these small groups, usually between 3 and 4 students. They're working together. Every person in the group gets the same problem, the same, word, definition, whatever. As a group, they need to work it out, find a solution, and each individual person in the group has like individual cards that that are theirs personally. And so once they've solved it as a group, they have to figure out which one of them has the answer. And so I absolutely love Quizlet because it's not about guessing, it's not about speed, it's not about like, let me just press this button and we're going to move forward. They actually have to work it through, because if they're not working it through and they're just clicking buttons and they get it wrong, if you notice on this screen here, it usually goes up to 12. If they just get it wrong, it will push them all the way back to 0. They've got to start again. And so utilize I make sure my students understand, like, I want you to make sure that you're working it out, working together, coming up with the correct answer. That's more important than you just clicking stuff, because the likelihood of you getting it right is pretty low. And so students are working together. They're really practicing these ideas. They're able to hear what other people are thinking. And it is absolutely awesome to practice these concepts. And so you could do it also individually. It's the same idea. It's just that they're not working as a group. I absolutely love Quizlet. My students love it as well. And so this is more gamey though. The next one that we're going to talk about, which is quizzes. And I think I'm doing okay with time.
You're doing good.
So quizzes is one that's a little more straightforward, where again, it's interactive, it's fun, but it's more so an opportunity for students to practice specific skills. And so again, it's utilizing your time effectively. There are thousands of pre-made quizzes. These aren't things that you have to make. You can make them if you want, but you don't have to. You can the thing I like about quizzes as opposed to Quizlet is that you can edit them to suit your needs.
Me
right?
too.
So if things are a little more complicated than if what has been made is a little more complicated than what you've talked about, or you want to level it up a little bit more, that you can actually edit it pretty quickly inside of quizzes as opposed to Quizlet. And so I absolutely love this. It can be done live. So this is something that during summer school, we did this almost every day just to practice as a group. And then I gave them things that they could do alone. And so you could do it live or alone. You can assign this as homework, give them, that practice. And one of the things I'll often do is say, okay, so I'm giving you this. This is something I need you to practice. Your goal is to get an 85%. The minimum is 85%. And so students are able to practice through. There are things where it will automatically bring in new ones. So like if students are just practicing and they keep getting wrong, they'll bring in new ones. So it gives them a fresh problems to practice instead of just practicing the same one and then memorizing the answer, right? And so getting them up to that 85%. So that's something that's good. You can also make it a competition. Sometimes my students like that. They'd be like, Mr. Hogan, I'm going to beat you. And I'm like, okay, in your dreams. One of the things that, again, just to make your life easier, right? So sometimes like we do these things, we want to make sure that it's for a grade. So oftentimes what you have to do is look at the report, go and manually put in every single score. Yeah. For those of you that are lucky and get to use Google Classroom. So we are no longer Google Classroom.
We wish. We
I'd like
wish.
to- Before we used Google Classroom back in the day, now we use Schoology. If you use Google Classroom, scores will automatically load from quizzes to Google Classroom, and it is absolutely awesome. You do not have to wait. You don't have to do anything extra. It will automatically load, and so the students will have that score right there in the Google Classroom. You can also use this for other things. I know Kelsey uses it for math, but also for other things as well.
Yes, my kids love it for morning meeting, where it's like, guess the candy, or like some pictures will start to fill in like a delayed image, and they love that. They love Disney, they love all of it. So, and you can do it with teams, and they're hilarious names, like the running aardvarks, and they think it's so fun.
And so for me, one of my favorite things to utilize for those summative assessments is Google Forms. And I know it originally was like a tool to get information, to do surveys and things like that. And I still utilize it for that. So every year I give my students a report card on me, Mr. Hogan's report card, and they say the most ridiculous things, like, Mr. Hogan, you're awesome. Mr. Hogan, you're great. Mr. Hogan, you smell like cheese, like, whatever, all that stuff. So I utilize it for that, but I also utilize it for practice and quizzes and tests. And so this is one of the things that I definitely utilize now, since we've gone through our distance learning. So this is one that, even though we were face-to-face fully for our summer school, which I taught, this is something that I still utilize. And I utilized it a little bit before, but now I utilize it all the time, just because, again, it does allow me to use my time efficiently. So using Google Forms for assessments, if you do multiple choice questions, which I don't do a bunch of them, but if you do utilize any multiple choice questions, it will self-grade. So that gives you some flexibility in making sure that you're utilizing your time efficiently. You can also leave specific feedback to students, something that I absolutely love, on specific things. And again, scores will automatically import to Google Classroom. All right, so if you utilize Google Classroom, you can grade it right there. It'll automatically go to Google Classroom. You don't have to worry about going and importing things one at a time. All right, so Christy, I see you have a question. Did you use your camera to put in equations? So there's a few ways that you can put in equations. So there's a Google Chrome extension called Equatio, where you can import questions that way. And if you look on this video that I made, so again, if you have not joined the slide deck, there's videos and things that have been created that are for all of these things that I go through exactly how I've made it. We're not able to go through it in detail based on our time, but you'll be able to see exactly how I've made all of these. So I use Equatio, but also one of the things that I did is I'll have this equation, or I'll have the math problem in a different program I've made. I pulled it from something else, and I just took a screenshot of it and then uploaded it. Christy, did that answer your question? Awesome.
Perfect. Do you want me to click on any of these examples, Stefan, or save the 10 minutes for the?
So let's save the 10 minutes. So there are examples of a high school example and a middle school example of how I used Google Forms for an assessment. Okay, so now let's talk about an actual lesson that I did. So this is a lesson where it's for my algebra course, where we were talking about multiplying polynomials, and I wanted to use two specific methods, using the box method and the distributive property method. So to start off, my students loved, and this was a distance learning lesson. My students love to like, Mr. Hogan, I poked your face. Mr. Hogan, look at that, right? And so they get to click on my face, and then it will take them to a Padlet. So go ahead and click on my face. took them to a Padlet. And this is one of the ways that we utilize Padlet, where I just was asking them a question. So this question was, what is something that you really dislike and have no reason for? And so, you know, I just like mustard. I just like composition notebooks. Like,
I love this one when they bite their cheese.
someone bites their cheese stick, you know, it's like my brother's singing, you know? And so like, this was absolutely hilarious. Like when we got to class and we actually talked about this, like this, like took up a big chunk, and we had we laughed so hard at these things. It was so hilarious. And it really does allow us to build that connection in the classroom, which is so important to helping students to be successful academically. And so we went from there, and then from there, they were able to go and we started talking about specific vocabulary. So we talked about what's a term, what's a polynomial, what does all of this mean? So we were doing that. And so then what I did was I created a video, and in the video, we didn't talk about how I made the video. There is a webinar about that. So go ahead and look at how there is a video creation webinar. So if you have any questions about that, go ahead and sign up for that, and they will teach you how to make these videos. But in the video, I utilized Jamboard. So I utilized Jamboard, and this is just the way that I reviewed vocab, the different vocab. What's the term, a polynomial? Give them some examples of that. So they were able to watch that, and then after that, go ahead and go to the next slide. We then jumped into talking about the lesson. So I then started talking about, okay, how do we multiply polynomials, and then the distributive property. So I gave a lesson, and again, we were not face-to-face at this point. So students did this independently. So I did a lesson on how to multiply polynomials. And again, I exampled this using Jamboard, and I just recorded myself doing a Jamboard. And so they were able to watch that. And sometimes students are like, Mr. Hogan, I don't understand that. You're so confusing. Oh my goodness, this is so, right? They're like, okay, I need a little extra help. So I then linked in, they could watch another video by clicking on the camera if they wanted to watch another video of somebody else that wasn't their teacher that they've watched all.
I'm gonna say, sometimes it's just hearing a different voice.
Just hearing and seeing a different face, and hearing a different voice. I understand. So they were able to watch another video just to get an additional practice. And so we did that for the distributive property. I also did that for the box method. So I again did a video. It was 4.5 minutes long, where they got to see the box method. They also got to see someone else do it if they wanted some additional practice. After going through those two, they actually, like, there was a process that we did this. They did it in their notebook. They actually followed along just like they would in class. After they did that, I embedded this practice inside of our inside of the slide deck. And so what they were doing is they would go in, and there were some problems here. So they would go to the next slide. There's a problem. There's a polynomial that they had to then solve. So what they would do is on their notebook, they would solve this on their own, and they had two choices. They could check their answer. So they could go and say, show me the solution. And so if they click show me the solution, what it's going to do is it's going to take them to this video. And I actually did this along with my partner. There was a video that was there.
It's there.
And so they were able to see my teaching partner, work through these problems and check if their thinking and their process was correct based on how she did the work and comparing it to what they did. If they did it correct, great. If they didn't do it correct, they could then choose one of these problems down. So they did problem 1, they could then click on problem 2, and it would take them, they could try it again. And so then they could also just go to the next problem if they wanted. They didn't have to go to show me solutions. They could go to the next problem, do as many problems as they wanted, which then once they felt comfortable, they could then jump back into the presentation, and then they could go into this next part. So the next part was this group practice. The group practice was I gave them a prompt in Padlet. So you can go ahead and click that Padlet. I gave them a prompt, and they already had groups. They knew what their groups were. This was something that we'd worked on before. They each had a group. And so what they could do is they had to respond to the prompt. One of the things, again, I love about Padlet is I can give them a prompt. So group 1, group 2, group 3, and group 4, they had a prompt. What they then could do is have conversations. So I really liked group number 3. So I gave them the prompt. Okay, what's another way that you could have written x minus 4 to the second power? All right, so they wrote x minus 4 to the second power is x squared plus 16. That's not right. What could they have done? So one person said, I think they could have written it as x minus 4 twice. Another person was like, I agree. It would have looked like x minus 4 times x minus 4. And then I'm able to jump in because, as the teacher, I'm seeing this beautiful conversation. So I get excited and I'm like, ooh, all right. So then can somebody give me that next step? And then they must have moved on because nobody went after that. But they're able to have this conversation and this collaboration about math, not just, what's something that you dislike and don't know why, right? And so after this, they worked on an independent practice. And so their goal was 75%. They worked on this independently. This is something that they kept working on. They were able to do it again if they needed to, if they didn't hit that 75%. And now they were able to wrap it up. And so this is where I use that summative assessment that I talked about. They click on the link here, and it took them to our exit ticket. All right. And so now it automatically saves your work for 30
That must be new, right?
minutes. So
wow, what a handy thing.
they put in their name. So go ahead and can you put in, oh, it's supposed to be Kelsey Friend.
I know. I stopped filling it in. I said laughs.
All right. So if you notice now, students are working out their work. This is one where they actually had to take a picture with their camera. They took a picture of their work. They uploaded it. I was able to look at it. I would give them feedback. This is one of the things I absolutely love is error analysis or seeing what the problem was. So they're able to do that. And they would turn this in. I would give them some feedback, and then they would their score would go straight into Google Classroom. Once they finish this, they get to this next slide, and this was their favorite slide of all time. Whenever they got to
My
see
favorite
this,
every time.
so excited. This is when they are finished. And my lovely, fantastic NEA colleagues, we are finished.
We are. And just a reminder, here is our emails and our Twitter handles if you want to connect with us. You hopefully we put the slides in the chat a few times. So if you lose our emails, they are in the slides. And this is turning over to Jennifer.
Yeah, thank you so much, Stefan and Kelsey. I love how you really just demonstrated the 3 E's and showed us how you really do it, of everything from engaging students, and you're anything but boring, both of you. Right? And then getting into, what's wrong with that error? What are we learning from it? The authentic error. I really love that. So thank you so much. You make it fun and efficient, and all those existing resources everybody can tap and don't have to recreate from scratch. So
absolutely.
Thank you. All right. So we have 2 requests. One is if you would like a copy of this webinar, you can grab it in a couple of days from our storefront. And I'm just going to put the link in the chat. You can find the deck, and you can also print off a certificate of attendance so that if you can benefit from that. Sorry, all right. So here's where you can pick that up in a few days. And that, ignore the first N. It's NEA, Partnera, learnupon.com. That's where you'll be able to get the certificate. And then we just want your exit ticket, which helps us determine what you want to see next. Mm-hmm. And it gives our presenters some feedback. So I'll pop that in the box. And thank you so much.
Thank you everyone for coming on this. We know August, this time of year is really busy. So we appreciate you on this month. Is today Monday? Yeah, Monday evening.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, an extra special thanks to these 2 because they're just starting school tomorrow. So back at work.
Woo-hoo.
So thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you all for being fantastic.
Thank you everyone. And if there are any questions, feel free to unmute or put it in the chat, type us, email us, whatever you need.
Yeah, they were a great audience. So, all right, I'm going to end this. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Bye, everyone.